All right, everybody, I am going to try really hard to sit still. I'm going to pretend I have one of those awful neck braces for people who've hurt their necks, where your head is in a cage, and because I was watching this stuff in playback and I was feeling quite nauseous. Sorry for this stupid new camera I'm working with. I will try and improve the situation as soon as I can. Okay, now back to the AURORA case study for INFP. I was going into that reference article, the Verge article, and I had a little something to that I didn't mention in video 3. Where was that? There was something about that quote, the last one, that I wasn't quite done with. Excuse me. Yes, okay. But usually when I'm home and I have a piano or a guitar, I'll start writing a melody and then the words will come. Like little bees into a beehive making honey. So it depends on what kind of tool I have in front of me. So that's, I don't know about you, but that quote really says to me too. Really sounds major, not just major FI, but major breezy NP, you know? So the N part is in the simile, is in the using this poetic language all the time. That's what's screaming out and info gathering preference to me. But then her saying that, you know, when asked about what her process for songwriting is like, well, it depends on the kind of tool I have in front of me. Once again, depends on what kind of tool. She refers to a guitar and piano as tools. Metaphorical. I mean, she just doesn't stop. She's just a metaphor machine all day long, just turning them out. So I think we can really leave behind any idea at all that this could possibly be a sensor we're dealing with. I mean, it's just not, you know, it just becomes less and less likely. Yeah, so there's this kind of, you know, I go on inspiration a lot, and I use what I have before me, and I trust my gut and my instincts, and I just start creating, and then I, you know, go on. So again, are any of these things censures for anyone's type? No, and nothing should ever be considered out in isolation, ever, and nothing should be considered without seeing how it aligns with a whole lot of other evidence. But there is a lot of evidence, even in these, these two documents, I think, with AURORA. So let's go back to the Verge article. I'm going to go through that a bit. I mean, right from the get-go, right from the beginning of this thing. The journalist begins, I'm walking down a street in Tribeca with Aurora Axnes. My Norwegian is not so hot. Sorry about the pronunciation. When she suddenly swerves across the sidewalk. Her destination, a fruit stand to buy some strawberries. She pops open the carton immediately, and after trying one herself, offers a berry to each of us. Now, I don't know any J's who do anything like that, all right? I mean, again, not to say that none of them ever do, or that that's impossible, or that this is anything to go on by itself, but that's a very kind of whimsical, seat of the pants, I'm making it up as I go along, I'm going by inspiration kind of thing to do. I do that kind of thing constantly. I know the other NPs I know, the NFPs, they do it constantly. So that suggests NFP to me very strongly. Now maybe that could be SFP too. I don't know enough SFPs to say. So let's just say FP. That sounds very FP to me. Before we met, she told me she went on an aimless 2.5-hour walk around the city like a weary traveler insistent on living in the moment. So again, like Super J, no. Now she's 19, she's really young. But, you know, I think we, just in the first paragraph, or like, I think we can pretty much dispense, you know, Jay, it's looking unlikely. But let's keep an open mind, continue on. AURORA's debut album, All My Demons Greeting Me as a Friend, also seems to be inspired by some unseen energy. Her songs sound like they're bending toward light. Her melancholic ideas and moody vocals are seeped in an electro-pop sound. The album single Conqueror has the friendly, crunchy vibe of something that might soundtrack a Prius commercial, but its lyrics are surprisingly dark. Quote, broken me and broken them, and you are broken too. This complexity seems to resonate with people. So that leads into something else, something that goes right back to what Jung wrote about what he at the time was calling the feeling type. This is before the cognitive functions were later sort of differentiated into 8, when there were just 4 that Jung was writing about, and described that, we now understand to be the feeling dominant types, the introverted feeling dominant type, I should say. This is before INFP was conceived of by the Myers-Briggs team. But that's what he was writing about, and called this type the melancholic type. And that was part of what I was referring to a little bit earlier when I said that INFPs are aware of their demons, and it's very, it's quite a few. And again, I really don't want to be, if there are any INFPs who are having a hard time, or if there are any young INFPs who are just discovering their type and they happen upon my video for some reason and they're watching, I do not mean to imply at all, I do not want to be some big ass downer and pessimist and overgeneralizer, and inaccurate. I do not mean to imply that all INFPs are sipping absinthe and some garret and, becoming consumptive with their woes, and, that's not, that's really not the case. But it is the case, though, I think, that INFPs, more INFPs than many people, most of the other 15 types, have their melancholic states. When you're taking in and having to consider all the kind of stuff that an INFP temperament leads you to have to consider all the time, it's a heavy, heavy load. And it's difficult. And I will get into more of that later in more detail. Maybe I will take a little detour and go back to my letter, where I was writing to my friend and saying, the person who put the question to me, do you think Aurora is ISFP or INFP? And where are we? Yes, I said, this is when I finally watched the video after I'd really read up that article I was just quoting from, and I went to the video and then got blown away. And I said, what she says, this is in the video, where she talks about the song Warrior and then performs it. What she says at the 38-second to the 48-second mark alone practically cements her status as an IFP. And that's where she says, something along the lines of, I think that the meaning of life for humans is to be kind to one another. I find it very hard to imagine members of any other type other than an introverted feeling dominant type saying that. And just that, that's what they think, is that's the thing. Then, what she says from the 49-second mark through to the 1:16 mark about the meaning of her song Warrior, and this is just my opinion, puts in a nutshell what it means to be an INFP. For your real life, and that is to say your inner life, this is the case for all the INs, the inner life is the real life. That's where the action is for the creative thinking introverts. It's definitely in there, and then the outer world is for their consideration. It's to take information from inside and then ruminate upon it and think about it and conceptualize about it and wonder about it and reconfigure it in interesting ways, theoretical ways. That's what the creative thinking introverts do. All right. So for an INFP, your real life is a ceaseless quest after beauty, fairness, and kindness. And then with reluctance, I add that it's, and to be disappointed all the time. When I've said that last part to my INFP loved ones, the ones I'm really close to, tried that out on, I said, what do you think about this? To a 1, they become a bit misty in the eyes. Because that's exactly right. And it makes perfect sense according to both theories, the Jungian typology and the and the Myers-Briggs temperament indicator system. And I think, my friends have been a little choked up by my reflecting that back to them, because, it had not been the case that someone had done that so simply. Again, they're not familiar with the model, most of them. They just know, they listen to me yak about it all the time and they're interested, but not many of them have gone and studied it after. But no one's reflected that back to them so simply and with understanding before. And I go on to say down there that, I'm again commenting on this controversy of ISFP versus INFP. I said the only thing of her that I've witnessed so far that isn't yelling INFP in my face is the fact that in that video clip, the fact her facial expressions in interview are much more animated and expressive than many INFPs are, in my experience, what I've seen. But that's it. That's it. And I add, and that's not a useful factor for typing unless well supported by weightier evidence directly linked to cognition. INFPs are incredibly emotional in the deepest way. So I'm addressing the melancholy aspect here that they're reputed to have as a major part of their characters. And I've seen this. I don't know. I don't really think it's contestable. And it's according to the theory. It's according to the theory, and it seems to be borne out by the reporting and endorsement of many INFPs that I know. INFPs are incredibly emotional in the deepest way, and the vividness and creative extent of their imaginations cannot be surpassed. They're the most idealistic, the biggest dreamers, and the most utterly devoted in belief to the golden rule of all the types. They're also usually very intelligent, and I mean that in the sort of conceptual sense. They're usually very intelligent in addition to being so sensitive emotionally. If you keep all of that in mind, and if you have any kind of imagination yourself, take a look around at the world, and then think of how the world would measure up to the magnificent and humane kingdoms inside these people. It becomes crystal clear why constant disappointment and frequent melancholy would dog them all of their days. Now, I said it wasn't going to be a big downer. Maybe I'm not going to leave it at that. There are all these wonderful things. In the material coming up too, I have so much about INFPs, about how I laugh with them, how I laugh, and I laugh until I almost feel like barfing. So this is not all there is to it, but I do feel that this is a real dimension of the INFP experience. It's something that all INFPs are going to encounter at some point in their lives that they're going to deal with.